Today, T-Mobile confirming hackers stole data from tens of millions of its customers. What was stolen and what's it going to do to fix it? As inflation pressures grow, the Federal Reserve seems more willing to lessen the amount of money it's putting into the economy. We also get key analysis on key parts of the economic recovery. A New York City's mayor sued for his vaccine mandate. Who filed the lawsuit and what do they want? That and much more, coming up in NTD Business. Good evening. Great to have you with us. I'm Paul Graney. T-Mobile US today confirming hackers stole personal data from more than 40 million people. The stolen data includes social security numbers, birth dates, names, even driver's license information, but it said no financial details were compromised. The victims include nearly 8 million existing T-Mobile wireless customers, as well as former, even prospective customers. On Sunday, the company said it had started investigating the hack after media outlet Vice reported it. It says the entry point of the hack has now been closed and will offer affected individuals 2 years of free identity protection services from security firm McAfee. And shoppers returning to stores ahead of the back-to-school season is pushing Target to forecast higher same-store sales growth. The company beat quarterly estimates today, even as online demand dropped sharply from pandemic highs. Foot traffic rose about 13% in the second quarter, an indication people are falling back into pre-pandemic habits. Target says it proves Americans still want in-person shopping. In-store pickup and drive-up sales are up 55%, while orders shipped to homes are down. It expects high single-digit sales growth for the second half of the year, mostly riding on a strong back-to-school season. Shares of Target are up over 40% so far this year. But Amazon is still riding high on the e-commerce wave, leapfrogging Walmart to become America's largest retailer. It's something analysts expected for some time, but an increased reliance on e-commerce during the pandemic accelerated Amazon's rise. According to Wall Street estimates compiled by FactSet, Amazon took in more than $610 billion over the past 12 months. That's $44 billion more than Walmart. But Alibaba, the giant online Chinese retailer, is still the world's top seller. Neither Amazon nor Walmart is a dominant player in China. If you're wondering how long Amazon might stay on top, recent history suggests about 3 decades. Sears took the title from A&P in the 1960s, then Walmart claimed it in the 90s. Now begins Amazon's reign. And PayPal will no longer charge customers late fees on buy now, pay later purchases. It's facing stiff competition in this space. PayPal first started offering the service last year. Now it hopes dropping late fees will make the product more affordable, more attractive for shoppers. It's also facing scrutiny from regulators too. They want to make sure consumers don't take on more debt than they can handle. PayPal says it doesn't expect to see more customers defaulting on payments because of the changes, which will take effect in October in the US, the UK, and in France. And enhanced unemployment benefits from the federal government will expire at the end of the month. About 7.5 million Americans will be affected, but there are a record number of jobs available. Here's NTD's Con Fredrickson with more on that.
The September deadline for unemployment benefits is looming. More than 7 million Americans are set to lose their benefits by Labor Day. Progressives and some Democrats called for an extension for the programs, but met with reluctance from both sides. That's especially with job openings that reached a record 10 million by the end of June. On top of that, businesses have been reporting difficulties hiring workers. According to the United Food and Commercial Workers International Union, retail and restaurant workers, for instance, gained the upper hand in contract negotiations because of that. If you are among the 7 million, Rolf Bax, Chief Human Resource Officer at Resume.io, says you should look into industries like sales, marketing and customer service, IT, transportation and logistics, and construction and building. An analysis by the Washington Post shows that besides those, employers for manufacturing, education, and arts and entertainment have also stepped up their search for workers. These are the industries that have the most job openings. And when applying, he says tailoring your resume to these industries is key. Colin Fredrickson, NTD News.
Low mortgage rates are supposed to make homes more affordable, but The average loan size for a new home hit a record high in July, according to the Mortgage Bankers Association. It says strong buyer demand coupled with limited supply pushed the average new home loan size to over $400,000. Home builders have been hit by rising material, skilled labor costs, and this, combined with a shortage of housing stock, has sent U.S. home prices soaring. And it's increasingly pushed prospective buyers to the sidelines. A recent survey by the National Association of Home Builders showed that the top reason why people looking to buy a home didn't buy was because they couldn't find one they could afford. It seems to be the same story with new cars. Prices are at record highs. One research company says the average price hit a record of nearly $43,000 in July. That's 8% higher than last year. A limited supply of new vehicles and a trend toward higher-end SUVs and pickup trucks are some of the reasons for the price jump. But the high prices may be discouraging customers. New car sales have slowed. July was the slowest month of seasonally adjusted sales in a year. Beef prices are going up too. Will that impact your next trip to your favorite steakhouse? NTD's Phil Zoe has the story.
The price of beef is soaring. Wholesale prices in July were 40% higher than a year ago, according to the U.S. Labor Department. U.S. steakhouses just started recovering from the CCP virus pandemic, but now the Delta variant might threaten the $5 billion industry. Office executives and tourists make up a large part of high-end steakhouse customers. But some companies have delayed the return to office date for employees. Travel and in-person group events are also at risk. The New York Auto Show was recently canceled. Some steakhouses had to reinvent themselves to stay in business.
It's been rough. We've been doing a lot of the takeout orders. We never did that before. Traditionally never takeout, but now we have a big takeout.
Spots like Fleming's, Ruth's Chris, and Peter Luger Steakhouse started offering delivery and takeout services. Ruth's Chris said it's really too early to tell. Brands like Del Frisco's Double Eagle and Morton's are trying to stay optimistic. They said if things don't get worse, they are expecting this December to be pretty much the same. Phil Zoe, NTD News.
These price increases are pressuring the Federal Reserve to gradually lessen how much money it's injecting into the system by buying financial assets. It started putting money into the system last year to increase liquidity in the financial markets and prevent a credit crunch. It's also supposed to make money cheap to borrow for consumers and businesses, spurring economic activity, but it is inflationary. The Fed released minutes of its July meeting today, and it seems many of its officials are concerned about inflation and expect the Fed to start tapering or lessening their asset purchases at the beginning of next year, even sooner. But Joseph Trevisani, senior analyst at FX Street, tells me that recent weak data on retail sales and consumer sentiment could make the Fed move a little more slowly. Asked him if the Fed's asset purchases really affect things like retail sales and consumer sentiment.
I don't think the program themselves have that much effect. Now, commercial rates, the rates that people pay, are being held down to some degree, certainly mortgage rates, by the Fed's purchase program. That is what is restraining commercial rates. So the idea that if the Fed, that the markets are waiting for the Fed to announce a Fed funds rate, I think is simply not true. Everybody in the markets knows, and all journalists know, that when the Fed makes an announcement that they're going to begin to taper, the Treasury market yields will go up, and that will take up all of the commercial rates that follow the Treasury market. So I think that's where the change is going to happen, not with the Fed funds rate.
But they're in this interesting conundrum then, because in the latest consumer sentiment poll, I think the biggest concern was inflation, right? So
yes, that's true. You know, you can make it's difficult to tell what is actually happening in the minds of many people. We can all examine our own minds and say, what are we worried about? Consumers hate inflation. So I think very much that inflation is on the minds of people who are paying more every week at the grocery store. That's what registers with people. It's also quite possible that the recurrence or the return of The COVID Delta variant in a lot of states is also having an effect. But I think we may be a little bit more inured to that by now. It's probably inflation. Whether or not this translates into a trend in consumer spending is the real issue.
Last time we spoke, it was about the job numbers, and I think we're all pretty positive that day. But I think even since then, Salesforce did a survey with its small businesses recently, and they found, I think almost 60% of them say that the revenue is hampered this year because they can't get enough workers. They can't find the help. Why do you think it is? Well, what's the main reason that they can't get it?
Well, it becomes, again, difficult to find a survey that will pinpoint something like this. But if you follow the logic, for a lot of the jobs that are going unfilled, these are not high earnings jobs, they are service jobs, they're retail jobs, they're counter jobs, they're jobs that don't pay a great deal. And for those jobs, it's logical to assume that the enhanced unemployment benefits that have come out of Washington are making people think, well, you know, the benefits are going to run out in a month or 6 weeks. I'll go back to work then. Can you prove this is actually what's going on? No. But it is a logical conclusion. I think it probably is.
We also have in the city here as well, some of the gyms, local gyms told us that people have started canceling their gym subscriptions because of this new vaccine mandate. And
yes,
we have, it's still relatively low vaccination rate if you take everybody in the city. Do you feel that the small businesses can afford at such short notice to take this hit of turning people away?
It's going to be difficult for small businesses. I mean, the entire pandemic and its lockdown regimen has been devastating for small businesses far more than anything else. They have less revenue to fall back on, they have less credit to fall back on, and they're extremely dependent on their revenue stream, their cash flow. So yes, anything that impedes that now for the ones who have held on is going to create more problems. This is an obvious fact. This doesn't have to be supposed, it's just real. So, is this a good idea for New York City? It would not seem to me, being a city resident, that it is.
Joseph Trevisani, FX Street. And Wall Street's main indexes dropped today. The Dow fell 383 points, over 1%. S&P 500 lost 48 points, also over 1%. And Nasdaq dropped 130 points today, about 0.9%. And the vaccine mandate has gone into effect in New York City. NTD's Phil Zhou spoke to businesses and customers to see how the week's been going so far.
Many businesses will have to start asking their customers for proof of vaccination. We start our coverage in the West Village right here in downtown New York.
I would carry my proof to any restaurant that requested it.
It's really easy.
What about the businesses themselves?
I would say it's a double-edged sword. Like, you take it, you don't take it, there is a risk still.
I wouldn't be able to sleep at night if I did implement this policy.
Do not go to the businesses that are going to issue this key to New York. Do not do it.
Gallery owner Eli Klein has been in business for over 10 years. He says the vaccine mandate is unreasonable. He respects people's privacy and anonymity.
I'm not prepared to request people's medical records upon entering my gallery. So I'm not thinking about being vaccination police or hiring security, because it's just not going to happen.
Klein says he worries the most for people and businesses in minority communities. Around 50% of Hispanic New Yorkers and over 60% of Black New Yorkers are still not vaccinated. That's according to government data.
I'm saying that it feels like discriminating against certain people. I'm saying that it actually is discriminating against certain people. And that's not how I was raised, and I don't intend to do that.
Another business is taking a different approach. It started requiring vaccination proof months ago and have no problem asking customers and workers for it.
100%, I agree. I work right across the street, Will Space. We are a fitness facility. Before even it was put into mandate, we made sure all our trainers are vaccinated since April.
The mandate goes into effect August 17th, Tuesday. The mayor says enforcement will start next month, September 13th. Phil Zhou, NTD News, New York.
A group of restaurants is suing the New York City mayor over the vaccine mandate. A restaurant advocacy group, along with 2 Italian restaurants and an Italian bakery, have filed the lawsuit. They want the court to halt the mayor's order for the mandate. The order requires vaccine proof to enter a restaurant, gym, performance venue. Customers would need at least 1 dose. Workers would also need to be vaccinated. New York is the first city to make such a requirement. Some restaurant workers have already threatened to quit, though. Restaurant owners are worried that in the current job market, they would be hard to replace. And crypto exchange Binance says it's hired a former U.S. Treasury criminal investigator. He'll focus on anti-money laundering programs and improving relations with regulators. The company is trying to reinvent itself as a regulated financial firm. As governments and financial watchdogs worldwide focus more on the crypto industry, Binance has faced the brunt of recent challenges in what was mostly an unregulated environment. Binance is seeking to establish regional anti-money laundering headquarters. A statement Wednesday said that its international compliance team and advisory board has grown 500% since 2020. And severe droughts are drying up rivers and reservoirs vital for the production of hydropower. This is happening in several countries around the world. NTD's Patrick Hayden with more on that.
Droughts have triggered big hydropower disruptions in places like western US, Brazil and China. This has led governments to rely more on fossil fuels.
We're in the 22nd year of drought, and the lake was about 95% full in year 2000, and now we're at 35%.
At the huge 2,000 megawatt Hoover Dam on the Colorado River, where 1 megawatt can power up to 1,000 homes, production was down about 25% in July. In central Gansu province, China, it's been bleak for some.
There wasn't a single raindrop from the sky.
Also, Yunnan province in southwest China is still recovering from severe droughts from last year. In Brazil, hydroelectric power is the top source of electricity at 61%. Drought recently cut water flows into hydro dams to a 91-year low. The country is seeking to activate thermoelectric plants to offset the drop in hydropower. In California, Governor Gavin Newsom authorized the use of diesel generators and engines. The Department of Energy's Director of Hydropower Research says they're researching how dams can more efficiently store water during rainy periods so it can be reserved for use during droughts. Patrick Hayden, NTD News.
Terrible. Still to come this evening. The TSA is extending the mask mandate for air, bus and train. How much longer will you have to wear your face coverings on planes and public transit? And a deepening drought threatens California's $6 billion almond industry. Some farmers switch to other crops or leave fields fallow, meaning less almonds. That and more after this short break.
Secure, the true solution for your digital privacy and security. Secure is a private and secure messaging and email solution hosted in Switzerland, using military-grade encryption and Swiss privacy laws, giving you true privacy. Secure is 100% private and does not collect or sell any of your personal data. Secure's Helix technology connects you securely to our Swiss servers without the need of a VPN, guaranteeing privacy and security for all your communications. Secure Messenger doesn't require your phone number or any personal data that hackers target. Chat by Invites allows you to chat privately and securely with anyone outside of your secure network without the need for others to download Secure. Secure Send offers you a private and secure way to email anyone outside of Secure. You won't find this level of privacy or security on any other email or instant messaging application. Visit secure.com. Regain and protect your privacy today.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Thanks to your support, you've helped make MyPillow become one of the fastest growing companies in America. Over the last 12 years, you've helped MyPillow create thousands of jobs right here in the USA.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
That's why I invented My Pillow. My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs and helps keep your neck supported and aligned. I'm interrupting this commercial right now. Retailers have canceled My Pillow, and to thank you for your support, I'm going to pass the savings directly on to you. For example, you get my 6-piece towel sets, regular $109.99, now only $44.98, or My Pillow dog beds for as low as $19.99 with your promo code.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.
Welcome back. There is a new movie in the works about the Thai cave rescue where 2 British divers rescued a young soccer team trapped in a cave. True story. NTD's Colin Fredrickson has the details.
The Tam Luang Cave Rescue garnered international attention back in 2018. 12 boys and their soccer coach ventured deep into the cave, only to be trapped when heavy rain flooded the tunnels. There was a massive international rescue effort, and in the end it was British divers John Volanthen on the left and Rick Stanton on the right who found them. Volanthen now has a new book out called 13 Lessons That Saved 13 Lives. There's also a movie in the works directed by Ron Howard, known for Apollo 13, A Beautiful Mind, and Solo, a Star Wars story. John Volanthen spoke to NTD about the rescue.
And we arrived at dusk, and we arrived into what felt like utter chaos, where there were hundreds, if not thousands, of people milling about both inside and outside the cave.
He says they were all trying to do something, but felt like they had lost a sense of what they were actually trying to achieve. There were also many military divers.
Unlike most of the other divers there, that situation was familiar to us. We were comfortable making progress through a cave in what was essentially zero visibility, where you literally can't see your hand in front of your face.
Around 10,000 people participated, including 200 divers. Out of all those divers, only Volanthen and Rick Stanton were able to make contact.
The current is so strong that you literally can't swim against it. You have to pull yourself hand over hand against the wall, or you have to sink to the bottom and crawl forwards. We were searching for an area of the cave known as Pattaya Beach, which is where it was hoped the children would be sheltering. And when we reached that area, we could find no sign of them. At that moment, Rick and I should have turned round.
But they decided to push on. Eventually they surfaced in an airbell, and they knew they found something.
We saw some lights starting to come down a mud bank, and one by one, as we counted, we realised that there were 13 of them still alive, and we'd found all of the wild boars.
We are coming. It's okay. It's okay. Many people are coming. Many people. We are the first. Many people come. What day?
John says when everybody works together and operates as a team and pulls in the same direction, it's possible to achieve far more than perhaps you would have been able to do with just a group of individuals who work alone. The movie 13 Lives is set to come out next spring. Colin Fredrickson, NTD News.
And the Transportation Security Administration is extending the federal transportation mask mandate until the middle of January. The mandate was going to expire September 13th, but the FAA says it's gotten upwards of 2,800 reports of passengers violating the mandate so far this year. Meanwhile, air travel hit a 10-week low. The TSA says it screened 1.6 million people at airports nationwide Tuesday. That's the lowest number since June 8th. Industry experts say travel does typically slump as kids head back to school, but the rise in virus cases could also be causing travelers to think twice. And California's deepening drought is threatening its $6 billion almond industry. It produces 80% of the world's almonds. Production is expected to decline, which could lead to higher prices. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the story.
As a drought continues across California, the state's water-intensive almond crop is under threat. Unable to obtain or afford water, some growers have stopped irrigating their orchards, letting the trees die.
We're in the second year of this drought, but it's really serious. And it's as serious, if not more so, than any drought that we've been in before.
Others are leaving fields fallow to save water for their almonds, or preparing to tear out their orchards years earlier than planned.
The profitability of growing almonds is not the same as it was in the past. As you can see, there's one orchard here that's drying up because they just didn't have the money to buy the water. And we're seeing this all over the valley. This is just one orchard that isn't getting water.
Almonds are one of California's top crops and its biggest agricultural export. The industry exports about 70% of its almonds overseas. Jasper estimates that about a third of California's orchards are planted in areas with unreliable water supplies.
So we're going to see a slight reduction in the amount of almonds coming out of California, which the world's going to start to see less almonds.
The U.S. Drought Monitor reported that 88% of the state was in extreme drought in early August, with the Central Valley facing the worst conditions. In May, the USDA projected that California's almond crop would hit a record 3.2 billion pounds this year, but in July it scaled back that estimate to 2.8 billion pounds. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
And Nissan gave us the 350Z, then the 370Z. Now the automaker unveils its newest version in the sports car line, and it's dropped numbers completely and simply calls the new car Z, which is pretty much what many people call the older cars anyway. The new Z will have a 2023 model year and is due out next spring. Marks the first time Nissan has redesigned the car in a decade. The company upgraded the engine to 400 horsepower plus added modern safety features and a touch screen. What's not clear is the price. The car is expected to arrive at dealerships in spring 2022. And a new breed of safari vehicle is silently making its way across one of Kenya's national reserves. One company is converting the gas-guzzling vehicles to offer tourists a more eco-friendly and quiet experience. David Doyle has more.
Gliding silently through Kenya's Masai Mara National Reserve is a new generation of safari vehicle. Gone is the noise and emissions of the traditional gas guzzlers. This Toyota 4x4 Land Cruiser, driven by tour guide Sylvester McKenye, is 100% solar powered.
If you drive here silently, you will of course get much closer to animals, especially the elephants that we are in now, because there's no vibrations on the ground and there's no the fume that will get a smell from like other cars. So with this, you can get all those things. They are not disturbed in any way.
Off-road vehicles are a common sight in the at times carbon-heavy wildlife industry, but McKenye is head keeper at Embu River Camp, an eco-lodge which runs entirely on solar power. It bought 3 of the vehicles, which were converted by Nairobi-based Opibus, the only company in Kenya currently changing diesel and petrol-powered off-road safari vehicles into electric ones.
What we do first is take out the engine.
Electrical engineer Wanjiru Kamau says the company has big plans to electrify Kenya's roads as well as its reserves, starting with minibus taxis.
What we envision by 2030 is to have all matatus on the road to be electric, as well as utility vehicles. And what we have at the moment also are motorbikes.
Kamau says the Swedish-Kenyan business has converted 10 vehicles used in Kenyan game parks. She adds that, as well as being more environmentally friendly, the electric motors cut operating costs by half.
That's the latest business updates for today. You can still catch NTD Evening News with Stephanie Cox at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. For NTD Business, that's all for today. Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
We have a new channel. Subscribe to us on YouTube at NTD News. Get the highlights of our news broadcast and the most important headlines that we curate especially for you.
Don't let YouTube decide what information you get. That's your choice. YouTube is deleting our videos and cuts you off from a source of honest reporting. Make sure you don't lose access to NTD's news content, and take a quick moment to subscribe to our newsletter so no matter what happens here, you'll keep your access to a trustworthy news source.